book lovers, and welcome to week 29 of my marathon of books. I just finished that week. Things are going pretty well, and I have a lot of books to tell you about this week, so I'll try to be quick. The first one is Kid Soldier by Jennifer Morano. It's a great book about this 15-year-old kid named Richard who signs up early or enlists in the war, even though you're not supposed to be able to until you're 18, because he kind of sees it as an adventure that he's going to get to see the world and everything, and it doesn't turn out exactly like he hoped. But it's all about how he ventures out into the world with the war and eventually realizes that what he really wants is right back where he started. It's a really good book. Next up, the first of two Deborah Ellis books, True Blue. I'd read this before, and it was a different experience reading it the second time, but I really like it because it's about two best friends, Casey and Jess, and Casey is arrested for murder because they've been counselors at a summer camp, and one of the girls that they're in charge of goes missing and ends up dead. So Jess wasn't there at the time, and Casey is charged with the murder, and then the story is all about Jess's reaction to her best friend being charged and how she's presented with different opportunities to fight for her friend and say that there's no way Casey could have done it. But each time she gives in to peer pressure and she just can't speak up. So I have to say Jess isn't a very likable character, but it's a very good story because it's got some other great characters, and even Jess's struggle is authentic and interesting. So I don't think you always have to like a character to enjoy their story. Next up, Three Songs for Courage by Maxine Trottier. Not sure. I hope I'm saying that right. I really like this book because it's set in the summer of 1956, which is actually the summer before my dad was born. So I liked having the glimpse into life during that time in the mid-50s. And again, Gordon, the main character, he starts off as a bit of an arrogant teenage boy, but he has such amazing growth during the book that by the end, even though in the beginning I was like, oh my goodness, I really liked him by the end because of all the things he went through and how he matures through these events. He's kind of caught in a rivalry with this guy named Lancer, who it just starts with a lit cigarette being thrown onto Gordon's car and marring the paint job. But it turns sinister as Lancer is kind of mentally unstable and willing to kill animals and things to make his point. So it's all about that. It's a great coming of age book, and it's a good guy pick. Next up is The Hunger, and it's about Paula. Well, it's kind of a funny book because there are two stories going on. There's one about Paula, and she's 15 years old, and she's anorexic with bulimic tendencies. But so the book is about her story, but she's also researching her past, her grandmother's past, for a school project. And it turns out that her grandmother is Armenian and lived through the Armenian genocide it started in 1915. So in the middle of this book, Paula, the main character, has a heart attack because she's so thin and she's just over exercising like crazy, and she she almost dies. And when she has this near-death experience, she is transformed into the body of her great-grandmother and learns about the Armenian genocide and how they were kicked out of their orphanages and marched across the desert, and a bunch of people were killed, and then it goes back to Paula's story. So I liked Paula, but then when I got to the story about Marta, I just wanted to read more. So I wasn't really happy going back to Paula's story because I wanted to know more about Marta. But I wrote in my review all my questions about Marta, and then a couple of days later I realized that there actually is a sequel that should answer all of my questions. So I put a little note on my review to say there is the sequel. And I think it's called Nobody's Child, so I'm hoping to read it sometime because that's the one I really want to read. Okay, last but not least, Moon at Nine by Deborah Ellis. It's a lot of things. It's an historical fiction book set in 1988 in Iraq, and it's about the story of this girl named Farin who falls in love with Sadira, and they start out as friends, but it just grows, and it's the most amazing love story. But it's set against this backdrop of an incredibly homophobic nation that kills people if they deem them to be deviants, if they're homosexual. So I love the love story part, and the ending, of course, is realistic but emotional and sad. But I have so much respect for Deborah Ellis for being able to tell this story. It's worth reading. So, stats. I'm up to 46,816 pages of reading, and that's a total of 203 books, and it's 4,681.6 kilometers traveled, and I reached 600 hours and 30 minutes of reading, which turns out to be 25 whole days. So 25 days of this year, 2004, I have spent reading. I'm very impressed. Anyway, I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.